You're listening live to Rightside Radio with Phil Williams. It's hard to go wrong when you're on the right side. Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right.
Alabama and Tennessee's syndicated news talk leader, Rightside Radio. Phil Williams here live in the Rightside studios, man. We got the local, the state, the national, sometimes the international. Oh, yeah. Like the dude just said, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Well, welcome to it. Welcome to Tuesday. Around here, you know, it's oftentimes about the food, so we like to call it Taco Tuesday. Hit it, man.
But more importantly, y'all know what today is, right? It's
welcome to it. By the way, was it Jeremy from Madison that sent us the picture of his bacon-wrapped meatloaf from last night?
Yes, he did.
Wow, that was like legit. I mean, it wasn't even just, I thought it was wrapped around the edges. It was like braided over the top of it. Good Lord.
Got a glaze on it as well.
Oh, my gosh. Okay, all I know is that looked like something I would care to partake of at some point. Hey, JP on the board. How you doing?
What's going on? How are you?
I'm all right. Is the weather outside distracting for you?
It is beautiful out there, man. And they sanded the green out here, so I don't know if they're playing it right now. But
you ain't putting on that one for today.
No, not today. No.
All right,
save it for another day.
We got not today. Hey, we got a lot going on. We got a lot of things happening. There's plenty of things to talk about, and we got a great show lined up for you because of that. So it's a target-rich environment for conservative talk radio. Coming up at the top of the second hour, the beginning of the second hour, our friend Stephanie Smith, who's the president of the Alabama Policy Institute, will be on the line with us, giving us some insights on what API, the Policy Institute, is doing regarding having a state-level DOGE office. DOGE, Alabama DOGE. Well, we'll have that conversation at the beginning of hour number 2 with Stephanie Smith from API. And then I still got a triple dipper just filled up with stuff, so hit it, man.
The Triple Dipper. 3 stories you've got to know.
That's right, the Triple Dipper, 3 stories, 3 themes, if you will, that you got to know as we run today's show. Coming out the gate, first one, some DOGE doings in conversation with Stephanie Smith. We'll also talk about what's happening in D.C. because, y'all, it's like every day is a new adventure when it comes to the thing we now call DOGE. Isn't it funny, too, that DOGE is a word by itself? It's no longer an acronym, it's a thing. It's just a word that has earned its own spot in the lexicon.
It's no longer a meme amongst my generation.
It is not.
It's actually a department of the government.
It is, indeed. DOGE doings. Number 1, Triple Dipper. Number 2, didn't get to it yesterday. Oh, we're getting to it today, though. Fool around and find out. That's right. Listen, I'm glad I waited because Harvard went ahead and stepped in it yesterday. Total faceplant. Fool around, find out. What happens when organizations and educational institutions and businesses and all decide that they can just go ahead and ignore that federal funds may require them to also get rid of DEI? Yeah, fool around, find out. We'll talk about that as number 2 on the Triple Dipper. And then number 3, listen, another court ruling last night. Can we deport anybody? And that's where it is right now. Number 3 on the Triple Dipper is, can we deport anybody? What's the rule? Are we allowed, since Biden did it, does that mean it's just locked in? We're just stuck with it? Can we deport anybody? We're going to talk about that in great detail as number 3 on the Triple Dipper. All right, well, let me jump on into the Rightside Way opening monologue, and I'll remind you guys that the Rightside Way is brought to you every single day by attorney Stan McDonald. Stan McDonald, partner at the law firm of Wilmer & Lee, 30-year veteran in the practice of law, and, oh, by the way, the daily sponsor of the Rightside Way, and I'll tell you more about Stan McDonald here in a few minutes. So, here's the thing. The other day, the lovely Charlene and I, we were traveling. At some point, we stopped for gas and coffee, and I decided to pick up a protein bar. So I went through all the selections of the various brands and the styles and waded through there looking for one that would not taste like iced cardboard, also not be filled with diabetes-inducing sugars. I finally settled on one that claimed to be cookies and cream flavored. That's fine. I made my purchases, headed to the car. I was about to pull out of the parking lot when I grabbed my 4-ounce of protein-packed sustenance, and I couldn't help but notice the package actually had some additional information that left me with more questions than answers. Because you see, as I read it, I realized that apparently my 30 grams of protein cookies and creams bar was really just a flavor-inspired bar. What is that? Flavor-inspired? What does that even mean? Well, I'll tell you what it means. It means I bought fake food. Fake as a snake oil salesman. Fake as a magician at a 10-year-old kid's birthday party. Fake flavor-inspired food. I mean, how did they actually become so inspired to make a bar of sustenance using flavors that were so unreal in their reality that the label had to read flavor-inspired? I'll be honest, I don't like fake stuff. It bugs me. Flavor-inspired. Reminds me of a time when I was a kid and I succumbed to one of those ads that made everything seem so cool. You know, the ones you saw in the comic books and all of it. We're talking back in the 70s when leisure suits were actually called stylish. We're talking about the time when comic books sold you the idea that you could buy a dehydrated pack of shrimp larvae because they were called sea monkeys. And they would magically form the lost city of Atlantis in a fishbowl right there on your dresser. It was a time when everything goes in advertising. And it was no different when I ordered what had to be the coolest record album ever. Saw it on TV, had to be real. Sensational 70s hits. Oh yeah, with songs like Convoy and Love Roller Coaster and more. I mean, you'll be cool. Bring your record to the party. All your friends will be amazed. For the low, low price of $19.99, this 2-record set by the original artist will be on your hit list forever. Well, I was saving up my allowance and birthday money. Yeah, I did. I was going to have the coolest album ever with all the greatest hits of my time and all sung by the original artists. Except, imagine my 10-year-old surprise when I got the album in the mail and it didn't quite sound right. But the guy on the TV, he said it was all sung by the original artists. Yep, you guessed it. That was the name of the cover band that did the recording. The band was called The Original Artists. So they really weren't lying, I suppose, but let's be honest, that album was as fake as a $3 bill. It was the music industry version of a flavor-inspired bar. I hate fakes. Original artists. So having said all that, I got to call out the latest fakery mixed with quackery mixed with Hollywood Botox and spandex. Did you see Jeff Bezos' Blue Origin company just launched a glam group into space? It was news without being news. I mean, Blue Origin is a real company with a real mission and really solid engineers who just allowed themselves to become nothing more than a Saturday Night Live skit this past weekend, for reasons that no one can really explain, although I do have a theory that I'll get to in a minute. You see, Blue Origin decided it would be cool to launch a crew of elitist society women wearing custom-designed, form-fitting blue spandex and big hair into space, sort of, for like several whole minutes. So I'm looking at this and I'm thinking fake, fake, fakety, fake, fake, McFake, fake. Did I say fake? The so-called crew was made up of pop singer Katy Perry, TV personality and Oprah's running buddy Gayle King, film producer Carrie Ann Flynn, and Jeff Bezos' glam wife Lauren Sanchez, who allegedly, by the way, designed their barely functional astronaut suits. There were 2 actual smart women on board with NASA rocket scientist Aisha Bowe and bioastronautics research scientist Amanda Wynn. Well, they were billed as the crew of the Blue Origin NS-31 mission from their West Texas launch pad, but in reality, they weren't a crew. In reality, they were nothing more than a Vogue magazine bunch of cover passengers. Not allowed to touch anything, don't hit any buttons, strap yourself in for the 15-minute ride. And that was cool, I'm sure it was. Better than Space Mountain at Disney World. But was it really a space mission? I mean, are our lives better here on Earth now since Blue Origin launched Charlie's Angels into a brief foray above the Kármán line at the internationally recognized boundary of space? Yeah, they went 62 miles up, they floated for a few minutes, they popped canopy, and they landed right back on terra firma. Mission done. It was all the rage for the few elitists and news-hungry socialites who don't want to watch real news. And guess what? In attendance at the launch was Orlando Bloom and Oprah Winfrey and even Khloe Kardashian, all there for the big event. Well, now. And the interview that they did with Elle Magazine, that's E-L-L-E, Elle Magazine, before the flight, it was very telling. Yes, by the way, that's Elle Magazine, not Scientific American or Smithsonian or some engineering journal for academics, but Elle Magazine for fashionistas and cosmetic surgery specialists. Katy Perry, she told the pre-flight interviewer for Elle Magazine that it was going to be so glam, And Gayle King said she hadn't felt like that since childbirth, and I don't know what that means. But it was the interviews afterward, though, that led to some awkwardly embarrassing refrains that actual Blue Origin scientists are now cringing over. You see, Katy Perry said her short trip to space, wait for it, made her, quote, connected to that strong divine feminine. Strong divine feminine. She went on to praise her team's rigorous training. Wow. Perry said she felt love when she came down. This is her quote. She said, "You're like really finding the love for yourself because you got to trust in yourself on this journey. And then you're feeling the love when you come down for sure, and you're feeling that strength." Yeah, I don't know what all that word salad means, and I don't think she does either. But the social media world, boy, they ate it up. One person on X said, Katy Perry and some other random women were just launched into space on a Blue Origin rocket for no reason other than to waste money and to virtue signal about women. And I'm all for venturing into space, the person said, but this wasteful wokeness does not help. Let's be honest. Here's the thing. If Jeff Bezos called me tomorrow and asked if I would care to take a flight to the outer edges of the atmosphere at no cost to me and give me a great photo op and a cool spandex suit that makes me look 10 years younger, I'd probably take him up on it. But that ain't going to happen. And truthfully, this joyride by a bunch of chicks in space, it probably shouldn't have happened either, because there was no point. Yeah, I take it back. Maybe there was one point. Just one. Okay, maybe two. You see, what really happened, in my opinion, is that Blue Origin is tired of playing second fiddle to SpaceX. SpaceX is owned by Elon Musk, and they just rescued actual astronauts who were trapped in space. SpaceX has been launching rockets and then catching them on a giant scissor pad as they glide down and land on a dime. SpaceX has been getting all the attention, so Bezos had to do something. So what could he do to get some love? What could he do to show the world that Blue Origin is really still out there working to bring cutting-edge space travel to the private sector? I know. Let's show the world that I trust my system so much that I'm willing to risk the life of my own fiancé. Hey, hun, what are you doing Monday? How about I pay for you to have a girls' night out? It'll be fun. New outfits, lots of selfies. Meanwhile, what he really did is mask his true intentions. It was surely a promotional event because, let's be honest, it got some press. It was surely a technology event because, let's be honest, they actually launched an honest-to-goodness rocket into space. But it was also a fake. And Jeff Bezos, if you get down to it, was willing to put his own fiancée at risk for a PR stunt. He was willing to pretend this was okay. Just routine, but yet not routine. It was a space launch version of a flavor-inspired bar, a musical compilation sung by the original artists. It was a snake oil salesman who let his need for his company to be remembered as a viable alternative to SpaceX become a company that is willing to put their loved ones' lives at risk needlessly just so the press will pay them some attention. That's gross. And I hate fakes. And let's be honest. These chicks in space were no more than that. They were fakes. They didn't do anything except have their pictures taken and their celebrity status used. Jeff Bezos, though, he might be the biggest fake of all because he was willing to strap the so-called love of his life and 5 of her besties to a 100-ton Roman candle and just hope for the best so they could get a photo op for his company. And I hate fakes. And that's a wrap for the Rightside Way. Yeah, what kind of guy does that, by the way? Hey, hon. Big danger, got to do some things. Experimentation, understand, proving the concept. How about I strap you to the rocket and not me? That does not even compute for me, y'all. That does not. That's somebody right there who was willing to let his fiancée take the risk so he could get the game. That's messed up. That's fake. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Chicks in space. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. We're back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right. Just covering down on some major ground as we are pulling pins on truth grenades. That's what we're doing. All right, so I gotta tell you about Stan McDonald. So yes, indeedy, every single day, the Right Side Way podcast, the Right Side Way monologue is brought to you by attorney Stan McDonald. So yeah, Stan's a partner at the law firm of Wilmer and Lee out of Huntsville, practicing law for over 30 years. But here's the thing: he's not just somebody who can advocate and fight for your legal needs. I happen to know him personally, and Stan McDonald has been a warrior in the trenches for conservative causes in politics, all the things right side ruffians care about for years. I mean, like he's an OG ruffian from way back. He's one of us. So attorney Stan McDonald, he has represented his clients in literally thousands of real estate transactions over the years. He can represent you in any local, state, or federal court. And I like to say that if Stan McDonald's on your side, you're going to have no greater friend. Likewise, your adversaries would have no greater foe. So I'm going to tell you how to reach him because you might want an attorney in North Alabama. Here you go. Attorney Stan McDonald. The law firm is Wilmer and Lee. He's an America First family man. Here's his phone number, 256-479-3020. That's Stan McDonald, 256-479-3020. Tell him you heard about it on Right Side Radio. Okay. No representation made. The quality of legal service before is great. The quality of legal service before other lawyers. I saw your eyebrows go up. I saw it. That was a reaction.
I'll give you like a 9.5 for that one.
Woof.
That was really good.
Give some applause, too. How about that? Just go ahead and kick it in, man. All right. I cracked myself up, by the way, talking about sending Charlie's Angels into space. I almost laughed in the middle of my monologue. What do we got here? Rusty from Harvest says, Chicks in Space. It's a comedy sketch, a bad comedy sketch. I know, it felt like Saturday Night Live. Connor from Huntsville says, hey, Phil, this is Connor from Huntsville. Want your take on why the Democrats are willing to die on the MS-13 hill. Thanks a lot. Great show. I will cover that later in the show, man, when I get into the can we deport section. But the bottom line is they don't have any issues. So they're looking for anything that screams racism, which is their usual mantra. Beyond that, brother, I'll wait till the dipper to unpack it more. Joanna from Hartselle says, Chicks in Space has the same tone as JP on Sports. It's a winner. Chicks in Space, JP on Sports. And shame on you for thinking a protein bar is going to taste good. Next time, grab a Snickers. John from Harvest says, not defending him, but Jeff Bezos already went to space on an earlier rocket. Good for him. Good for him. This rocket? Jeff from Indiana says, Phil, I can't believe they didn't sing Katy Perry's hit single Fireworks while she was in the rocket. And, of course, it's a PR stunt because no one's been talking about the Blue Origin lately. But for my money, and if I just want to be weightless, I'd just rather take a ride on the Vomit Comet. What? The Vomit Comet? Is that a ride? What is the Vomit Comet?
No idea what the Vomit Comet is.
Much cheaper, same effect. I think he's talking about like a fairground ride or something.
Probably.
And then Dustin from Hazel Green says, joke of the day. Who contributed more financially than any other human to the feminist movement? Jeff Bezos, when he got divorced and his ex-wife, Mackenzie Scott, became the 5th richest woman on the planet. He said, thankfully, she seems to be a good person, has gone into a lot of philanthropic things with it. Good. Glad of it. All right, man. Listen, all of you, stand by. We got more. Phil Williams, Right Side Radio. We will be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right. Just covering down on some major ground across the southeast U.S. of A. Y'all are talking about this show. Goes from Huntsville back over to Chattanooga. I'm talking about from Tuscaloosa back over to Gadsden. I mean all the way down to the loveliest little village on the plains called Auburn, and straight across the border from there to what we now recall Fort Benning. And then big old patches of North Georgia, Mississippi, too. So it's thrown in for good measure. I got a bunch of y'all texting. Apparently, everybody knows what the vomit comet is besides me. All God's children know the vomit comet.
So from what people are describing, I think I've been on the vomit comet when I went to space camp. I think it's if I'm picturing the correct thing, it's the weightlessness thing where you're kind of going around and around and there's a bunch of spinning things around you.
Wow.
I think that's it. I may be wrong though.
Well, let's see what like 5 different people have to say about it.
Yeah.
Lewis from Trinity says, Phil, the vomit comet is the round wheel on a playground with the bars upright on it. Everybody piles on, and you're spinning as fast as you can. Usually a person, oh yeah. Never made me vomit, but amazingly, we all lived through it. Yeah, that's the thing, that the centrifugal force would actually sling a kid 10 feet. you go end over end, elbows over shoe soles, just rolling. Thomas from Athens, I mean, the things we had on a playground when I was a kid, they were not padded. There was no soft ground underneath. You felt on the hard pack. Sometimes they even put gravel down. Like, that was really going to help.
Yeah, ours was mulch.
Thomas from Athens says the vomit comet is the nickname for NASA's operated special C-5A for astronaut training. Maybe. Okay. I've seen that. The one where they go up into the outer reaches and let them float for like 30 seconds before they come back. Jeff from Indiana again says, though, the vomit comet's a nickname for a specialized aircraft. There it is. That's it. That simulates weightlessness by flying in a parabolic arc. Wow, Jeff. This maneuver involves the plane climbing, reaching a peak, then diving, causing passengers to experience a temporary sensation of weightlessness. The nickname is a humorous reference to the fact that some people experience motion sickness. Okay, how you like that on the front of your plane? What's the name of your plane? Vomit Comet. Deborah from Harvest does the same thing. Vomit Comet, the 747 NASA uses to train astronauts. John from Huntsville says, Phil, spectacular monologue. Thank you, sir. Says, perhaps your best ever. And I don't like fake stuff either. Also, he says, JP, did you see your Atlanta Braves win last night against the Blue Jays? They're now almost tied for last place in the division.
I did. I didn't like that comment at the end, but I did. I did say that.
And then Jim from Athens says, he's apologizing to you? I don't know what's happening.
I think he was the guy that called earlier and nobody was there.
Oh, yeah. Didn't mean to call. Oh, he butt dialed the studio. Awesome. And then he says, Phil, your lawyer quip reminds me of the last verse of There's a Hole in the Bottom of the Sea. Okay. I don't know where to go with this, but thank you very much, Jim. All right, listen, we're going to kick off here. But what were you saying, though, a minute ago? You liked something in the monologue. What did I say that you were talking about?
The original artist is clever.
Oh.
It's messed up, but at least it's clever.
It's very messed up.
Yeah, I give him props. At least they were clever.
10-year-old's allowance for that thing. I look back at that. I think somewhere along the line, I think they had to change the rules because it was like, okay, we apparently have a loophole in the truth in advertising laws, and they got away with that, and now they can't. So I don't know whether it's copyright laws or, scamming laws, but the idea that the band was called the original artists.
And they just did nothing but covers.
I got to admit, that's like an evil genius.
Yeah, that's what I say. You got to give him props for at least being clever.
But I was 10.
Yeah, you were just an unfortunate victim.
I was indeed.
Yeah.
And it didn't make me cool at the party with all my friends.
It's like, guys, y'all going to listen to it for the first time with me.
Listen to it. It's very cool. Dude, that's fake. Oh, man. Dustin from Hazel Green says, Phil, Blue Origin and their, this is a huge text. He said their ballistic flights have been a PR event every single time, all caps, just because they couldn't get to orbit with the New Glenn for so long. He said they were claiming to take NASA's approach to R&D with New Glenn and testing components separately instead of, this is very in the weeds text, but the bottom line is, he says they have some amazing engineers there. I know quite a few personally that work at KSC and other facilities, but their leadership planning and their cojones to finally move the bar and push the envelope has made them their own worst enemy. Not their competition like SpaceX contracts they sue over. They just have a horrible plan and leadership, period. Dustin appears to sound as though he's been in the fray on this. Dustin, like you got a little PTSD from working with the Blue Origin. Anyway, yeah, plenty on that. But I do think that was just the most worthless PR stunt.
Somebody made a great point that the astronauts who were stuck in space for 8 months didn't have as much of a dramatic return that Katy Perry had. She was up there for like 5 minutes. She came back, kissed the ground, and all this. It's like, dude.
Can you? By the way, I tell you what. We're going to listen to her do her little quip about finding love, and I've got it. I found it on X, and I've actually got it. Hang on a second, brother. I'm gonna put it where you can get to it. But this is just absolutely asinine. The idea that she's like just all about the love and the things that we found and
divine feminine
energy or something. Yeah, here it is. I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna copy this one right on over to you, and then let's see if we can pull it up. It's only like 45 seconds long. But it is just obnoxious. Goodness. All right, I'm coming through to you right now. It should be coming through. My technology is not cooperating.
If you want me to find it, I can find it for you.
Well, I think I just sent it.
Okay, cool.
Check and see.
We'll check.
All right, yeah, we'll play that real quick before I jump into the next thing. But they did, and by the way, it was all about it was a star-studded event, and the fact that like Kardashians are there, and Orlando Bloom, who I think is married to Katy Perry or something, if I'm not mistaken. The whole thing was just kind of gross, and I just can't help but think there's some Blue Origin engineers right now that are going online to see whether SpaceX is hiring, because that's the way it felt. Did you find it? Did it come through? How long is it?
About 50 seconds.
Play it.
It is the highest high, and it is surrender to the unknown, trust, and this whole journey is not just about going to space. It's the training, it's the team, it's the whole thing. I couldn't recommend this experience more. This is like up there with all the, different tools that I've learned in my life, from meditation to the Hoffman process. This is up there because what you're doing is you're like really finding the love for yourself, because you got to trust in yourself on this journey, and then you're feeling the love when you come down, for sure, and you're feeling that strength. So I feel really connected to that strong divine feminine right now.
By the way, you're such a badass. I love that the month of April you're like, I'm going to space and I'm
feminine. Well, she's a badass because she's got the strong divine feminine. What does that even mean, JP?
What is the Hoffman process?
Okay, you're the millennial here. You tell me. I don't know.
I have no idea what the Hoffman process is.
I'm a little scared you're going to find something that we don't even want on our computers right now. It's probably some kind of transcendental meditation thing. Who knows?
A personal growth retreat that helps participants identify and resolve negative patterns of behavior, thought, and feeling that are often rooted in childhood experiences.
Okay. It's called therapy.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's the vibe that came from a Blue Origin rocket launch. And like I said, there are some outstanding engineers over there who are now looking at this and going, and all of our work came down to a presser where Katy Perry said the divine feminine was what it was all about. Pretty sure that's not accurate. All right, listen, I'm going to jump on into the topic at hand, and so let's just get into the dippers. Let's just do it. Let's stop talking about chicks in space. By the way, no, I can't. I got to do this. I did chicks in space as the title. I was feeling rather snarky this morning when I wrote this one.
Yeah.
And I'm reminded that wasn't there a skit on the Muppet Show years ago called Pigs in Space? Do you remember this?
Yes, vaguely.
And I think that was actually Pigs in Space.
Yes.
Was the actual, like, that's how it started every
time. I think you're correct. I think that's actually exactly how it sounded.
Well, maybe we just need to go ahead and that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna find a way to make a Pigs in Space, but it's gonna be Chicks in Space promotional video.
Promotional video.
Come on, you're a whiz. You can
I
do this
can do
stuff.
it. Yeah, I'll figure it out. Yeah.
Okay. All right, listen, I'll tell you what, JP, go ahead and take me to a break, man. We'll take a break about a minute before the usual schedule. We're going to come right back and jump on into some DOGE doings. And I got to tell you, the stuff the libs say about DOGE, Let's talk about Beyond the Pale. You think that maybe Katy Perry wrote this too. Phil Williams, Right Side Radio. You guys stay tuned. We will be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right. Just making common sense like a superpower. I'm jumping right on into the first dipper here, and this one is called DOGE Doings. And I'm going to be talking about federal and state because, believe it or not, Alabama and multiple other, and maybe even Tennessee and multiple other states are forming what they call their state-level DOGE. Department of Government Efficiency. What are they doing these days? Well, it's like every day it's something new. Try to keep up. I mean, it's almost gotten passé to try and report on it, but there's so much stuff. But what's funny too are the liberal histrionics about it. I'd like to say it's calmed down slightly, but only because there've been so many other things in the news. That's all. I don't think that it's like gone away by any stretch. The most ostentatiously bad article that I could find came from the Daily Beast. Phil, did you go to the Daily Beast? I did. I go to these places so you don't have to. Daily Beast, Dateline 2 days ago. DOGE goons physically drag a Social Security worker away from the desk. That's the headline, JP. DOGE goons physically drag a Social Security worker away from the desk.
Surely there's more to the story there.
There's actually not. I mean, I read through it trying to find out about the DOGE goons physically dragging the Social Security worker away from the desk. And there's only a vague reference that something about being removed from the desk actually happened. But they were DOGE goons.
DOGE goons.
And they physically dragged the Social Security worker away from the desk.
I've heard goons, ghouls, of all the above.
Unreal. So bottom line is this. Daily Beast. A senior executive at the Social Security Administration was physically dragged from his office this week after clashing with the Department of Government Efficiency, according to the Washington Post. Greg Pierre, a career civil servant who led an IT team working on the agency's data systems, was removed over his opposition to a DOGE plan. Okay, it went from being physically dragged to just removed. And then later in the story, the only thing you could find is he was removed. Okay.
So there's probably more to the story they didn't want to put in there of like he was.
And it's probably not.
What is this, the Daily Beast? You said I've never even heard of the Daily Beast.
The Daily Beast is about as liberal as you can get.
I figured
it's just right. It's like one step above Mother Jones. By the way, whoever names their magazine Mother Jones deserves what they get. And then the article goes on to say the scheme, as cooked up by Elon Musk's DOGE squad, falsely lists thousands of migrants as dead in Social Security debt. So basically, this article first takes issue with a goons physically dragging someone from their desk, which they can't substantiate. And then they talk about how bad it is that illegal immigrants are getting their names taken out of Social Security. You can't make this stuff up. By the way, it also gets better when you realize there are no sources for the story. They say things like, many career staff were worried the project was wrong or illegal, a former senior official told the Post. Okay. They're not even worried about their job anymore because they're a former senior official. But their name is still not in it. Which, that's the kind of reporting you see that says things like sources say, or on the condition of anonymity. Everything with a grain of salt at that point. They also have a whole section here about insiders told the Post. Okay, anyway, all I'm saying is libs are just ate up like a soup sandwich. They don't know what to do with DOGE. They're so upset that we're actually finding the places they've been hiding money and wasting money. Well, how about this? DOGE did discover something. This is Daily Signal Dateline yesterday. The Biden administration not only released a record number of known or suspected terrorists into the U.S., but also gave them Social Security numbers and taxpayer-funded welfare benefits, according to a new analysis by DOGE. DOGE posted the latest findings of alleged government waste, fraud, and abuse fully funded by Congress in a post on X. So here's the deal. They have so far identified 6,300 individuals who were paroled into the United States since 23 on the FBI's Terrorist Screening Center watch list or with criminal records. using the terrorist screening data set. They found these 6,300 individuals. And then, oh, by the way, of the 6,300 paroled illegal foreign nationals with criminal or terrorist records, all were given Social Security numbers. Many receive federal welfare benefits. They can track them by name. 905 of them received $276,000 in Medicaid funds. 4 of those were actually on the terror watch list. 41 of them collected $42,000 in unemployment payments. 22 of them received $280,000 in federal student loans. 409 of them received a net combined total of $751,000 in tax refunds and SNAP benefits. And it goes on. This is asinine. And by the way, it's taking DOGE to find this stuff, and yet what you're going to hear from the libs are they physically dragged a Social Security worker from their desk, and yet what they're finding in Social Security is you've got thousands and thousands of people on the terror watch list given Social Security numbers and lots of free stuff.
Unfortunately, I'm not surprised by those numbers.
I know. It just, every day is a different day, and every day is a new finding. Like, how about this one? From Fox News. Dateline yesterday. DOGE uncovers a massive VA contract, Veterans Administration, for salary survey data and analysis. What does that mean? Salary surveys, data, and analysis. In other words, they do a survey of people's salaries and they analyze it for you and give you a Excel spreadsheet, I guess. It was a $15.3 million contract for salary survey data and analysis. DOGE found it, DOGE canceled it. $3.9 million annual for multiple years. By the way, they replaced it with what they call a market price opportunity for $5,000. $5,000.
That's a bit of a gap in what's actually necessary and then over the top.
Went from 3.9. Somebody's hating life.
Yeah.
They lost their $3.9 million annual slush fund. They're funding black ops in Venezuela with this stuff. Who knows? Earlier this month, also, DOGE said the VA was paying $380,000 a month for minor website modifications. In other words, they've got somebody running the VA website, and they're getting paid $380,000 a month. The contract was non-renewed. The work is now being done by one internal VA software engineer who takes 10 hours a week to do it.
What's funny, though, in the title, they even admitted it was minor tweaks.
Minor tweaks. How about this? DOGE. Just listen, it's every day. It's all over the place. It's everywhere. DOGE. FoxNews.com, Dateline yesterday. The U.S. Department of Transportation announced that it will save American taxpayers over $60 million by ending a grant to help fund a high-speed rail project in Texas. In the age of interstates and fast cars, why did we need a $40 billion rail project across Texas? Well, the fact is we didn't. And so the $63.9 million grant has now been pulled back, and Secretary Duffy said if they want to fund it to the private sector, they can go right ahead. Just saying. Coming up next, let's talk about state DOGE. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Stephanie Smith calling in. We'll be right back.
You're listening live to Rightside Radio with Phil Williams. It's hard to go wrong when you're on the right side. Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right.
Alabama and Tennessee syndicated news talk leader, Rightside Radio. Phil Williams here live in the Rightside studios, man. We got the local, the state, the national, sometimes the international. And oh, yeah, like the dude just said, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Well, welcome to hour number 2 to all of our listening audiences, whether you be up yonder in Tennessee or over in Georgia or around Alabama and even down in Auburn. Listen, we got a lot going on, and I just finished covering some of what Big DOGE, federal DOGE, has been up to, saving and just millions and finding just scads of what I would call waste, fraud, and abuse. I mean, the very idea that thousands of illegal aliens come into our country on the terror watch list, are given Social Security numbers by the Biden administration, and then collect millions in benefits. That's just gross. But listen, lest you think that it is just a federal thing, just the other day I wrote a piece about how in Alabama we had a budget surplus. We have a budget surplus. The state Senate just passed the largest ever education budget in the history of our state at almost $12 billion in total spending. At the same time, they're talking about doing away with a tax cut because apparently they don't have enough money. That being said, there's a lot of money in the states, and there's a lot of deep state in the states. And there's a lot of waste, fraud, and abuse even in the states. And somebody who knows about it firsthand, who's been on the job, tracking this stuff down, even looking at AL DOGE as a thing, is our friend Stephanie Smith, who runs the Alabama Policy Institute, and she's on the phone right now. Stephanie Smith, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on, Phil.
Absolutely. Well, it's been too long. I know you guys have had your hands full, not just with, things, raising all your kids and them being in school, but you've got API in the middle of a legislative session. So,
That's right.
So wow, Alabama DOGE, what do you got going on with all that right now?
Yeah, so we established ALDOGE last December when it became clear, to me at least, that this was kind of the direction that the new Trump administration was going to head. And because I thought it was brilliant. And it's also one of those things that's sorely needed on the state level, as you mentioned, just like it's needed on the federal level. And so we really started, launched it, got some really good ideas from the general public, from elected officials, from bureaucrats that are in the know in Montgomery. And we've been creating ALDOGE reports. I think we're on number 12. Now in the last 3 months or 3.5 months about spending in Alabama, about taxes in Alabama. We started where Elon Musk started. We don't have U.S. aid grants here in the state of Alabama, but we do have education trust fund grants and general fund grants. And so that's where we started, just like Elon Musk did, which is trying to figure out how much money is being spent on non-governmental entities in the state of Alabama. So taxpayer dollars going to nonprofits. And so that's where we started. And in the ETF, that's $60 million in this budget that is just now being passed through the legislative process. And so, it was about $130 million between the two budgets going to nonprofits. And those were kind of our first 2 reports. Then we started really looking at salaries, especially on the education side, when the superintendent of schools asked for, a huge percentage increase in his salary.
Yeah, his personal salary.
In his base salary.
Yeah.
So we did an analysis of superintendents in surrounding states, how much they make versus what their NAEP scores are. And what we found was that even before the raise that Dr. Mackey just got, he was the highest paid and with the lowest scores.
Wait, did they give him the raise? They gave him the raise he asked for?
Yes. Well, not the raise he asked for, but yes, they gave him a raise.
Good gosh.
So not the full amount that he asked for. He actually backed up and asked for less, I think, because of the public pressure. But it's one of those things, he's obviously trying to circle the wagons and increase his level of power. And then we did so we dug into tax expenditures, and what I mean by tax expenditures is deductions and credits and where that money goes, because that's money that's not coming into our budgets at all. And then some more information on where money is being spent, and then foreign influence on our higher ed friends around the state. And that was an interesting one because since 2013, there have been over 7,000 foreign payments to Alabama colleges and universities to the tune of $275 million.
Whoa.
And there's no accountability for why that money has come into the state or what the foreign entities received for their purchases.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds like favorable treatment in the curriculums, or make sure you allow our students to have first access to scholarships or something.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, can I jump back on part of what you described a moment ago? Let me go back to the NGOs. So you discovered millions given to non-governmental organizations, and some of those I can remember being there before. Like in the general fund, you might have Vocal, which is a victims' rights organization, and they get some funding.
Some of them are very worthy.
Yeah, some of them are worthy.
They're non-governmental organizations,
right,
with no accountability.
Did you find some though that raised your eyebrows?
Yeah, I did find some that raised my eyebrows. And there were some, some of those are it's a way to funnel money to municipalities. And favored organizations that either have a really good lobbyist or have a buddy in the legislature.
Yeah.
And that's really not how governmental spending ought to be made. There ought to be a vetting process, a fair process, and a process to where there is accountability to the taxpayers for how that money is being spent. And even if the money is going to completely worthy nonprofits, that it's a nonprofit. The irony is it's a non-governmental organization that's being funded by government.
Yep.
And so, and there's also just no accountability to the taxpayer that any of those dollars are being spent for the purpose that they said that they would be spent for. And so that's a real problem. And our next report is coming out actually tomorrow morning.
Okay.
And I'll give you the sneak peek. It's on Innovate Alabama and the dollars that are going for economic development purposes to different organizations. There are 236 recipients who have gotten over $107 million in taxpayer dollars through this program in grants and tax credits. Only 200 of those organizations have any information whatsoever online.
Oh.
And a decent amount of that money is being used to promote DEI.
Come on.
Also, questionable uses of funds are things like $490,000 in tax credits to a Mexican restaurant in Birmingham.
A Mexican restaurant in Birmingham?
Yes.
Like one restaurant?
One restaurant. $5.9 million going to a place called Bronze Valley Venture Capital to, quote, and this is on the website, promote diversity and inclusion in the field of technology.
What is that in the latest budget, or is that in last year's still hangover budget? Where is this?
So this is Innovate money that has already been has already been expended, and then basically they funnel it to the Innovate board, and then that board decides where that money goes.
Do we have any legislators on that board?
There are more than a few legislators on that board.
Oh, listen. Okay, this is. All right, you may be lasting through the break on this one. So, Innovate Alabama, do they have a website?
They do, and they're actually really proud of all that they have done. They have a map where you can click through. It's called their asset map, innovatealabama.org/asset-map. And you can click through and find all of the things that we're reporting on. We went through the entire map and figured out who the entities were as best we could, where they are, how much they received, what program type they got it from, meaning was it cash or a tax credit, that kind of thing, and then what type of organization received it. And some of these are also nonprofits. and some of these are worthy and some of these are clearly not. And then some of these have very little information about the organization. And then if you click through and try to figure out who the organization is, there's one splash page and not a lot of information about the organization. And then just like with the NGO question, there's no accountability to the taxpayers about whether or not this money is used wisely. And there's no accountability to the taxpayers on jobs. So most of the time with economic development incentives, there are what are called clawbacks, which is some sort of accountability measure to where you say, hey, Mexican restaurant, El Barrio in Birmingham, which I've been to, very nice restaurant. It's hard to get in, by the way. But you received basically $500,000 of taxpayer funding for the purpose of expanding your kitchen. Did you expand your kitchen? Did you hire extra people? How many people did you hire for the $500,000?
And why are we giving money to a Mexican restaurant to expand their kitchen? I mean, is this a jobs program? Is this something was there a federal grant that passed through to this? This makes no sense to me.
The thought process is that we incentivize large businesses, and therefore we should also incentivize small businesses. So basically, you apply as a small business, you apply for a small business tax credit, and you get $250,000. And then some of them receive what's called a network designation, and they can get an automatic $250 every time they ask. And then some of them receive, multi-millions of dollars. One of the other ones that will raise your eyebrows.
My head's exploding right now.
There is one. There was a payment to a place called, I don't even know how to pronounce it, UABRN, LLC, UABRN, I don't know, made up word, given just over $1 million in a small business tax credit to build a convenience store in Bessemer, Alabama.
Stop it. UABRN. Have you gone to the Secretary of State's website?
UABRN, LLC.
Have you gone to the Secretary of State's website to see who founded it?
I haven't. That's a good idea. Our researchers might.
Well, if you don't mind, let's take a break right now because I got to. But I want you to hang on. You mind hanging on during the break?
No.
In the meantime, I'm going to UABRN's Secretary of State's website and seeing who in God's name orchestrated this, if I can. My gosh. I didn't call you on here to raise my blood pressure, but you did.
I know it. It's so frustrating.
All right, we're with Stephanie Smith, who's got DOGE, and y'all, they're finding real stuff. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. We'll be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right. Just pulling pins on truth grenades. All right, so I'm going back to the phones with Stephanie Smith. She's the president of the Alabama Policy Institute. They created an Alabama DOGE, ALDOGE, they're calling it, and they've been uncovering stuff, just like combing through the records. And I happen to know some of their staff, and they've got the people who know how to dig. And Stephanie herself has also served in the Capitol. She knows exactly where things are hidden. And Lord, you guys have found some stuff, Stephanie. So I am totally ticked off right now. UABRN USA Inc. I looked them up, and there they are. And it's the registered agent is somebody named Ahmed Badijia, who has a address in Bessemer, which is where you said he got hundreds of thousands of dollars just to build a convenience store.
$1 million.
$1 million to build a
$1 million.
State dollars.
To build a convenience store.
This is scandalous. I mean, I'm not using that term lightly. That's not my style, but this is scandalous. This is,
yeah.
And I did look up Innovate Alabama's board while I'm looking at it too. And I've got friends on that board. I'm looking at Greg Reed, Garland Gudger, Representative Anthony Daniels, Danny Garrett, Bobby Singleton. Bill Poole. This is a board full of folks that should know better.
Yeah, and it's frustrating for a couple of reasons. One is that there's a clear bias toward diversity and inclusion all throughout their terminology, and then also all throughout the terminology of many of the companies that they're funding. Now, the concept of the Innovate concept was to fund and incentivize technology programs. Now, Mexican restaurants downtown Birmingham, Alabama, are not high tech.
No.
And so it looks to me like possibly they had this money for incentives and grants and tax credits, couldn't find who they wanted to give it to, and so they just started handing it out to those who applied. You can't even be qualified for the small business tax credit unless you're 51% owned by a female or an African American.
Okay. So bottom line is it's diversity, equity, inclusion all the way around, no matter what. It's steeped in it.
Yeah, and the largest amount that went out this year was $5.9 million to a group called Bronze Valley Venture Capital, specifically to promote diversity and inclusion in the field of technology. And when you pull up their website, Bronze Valley, it is very specifically directed toward DEI kind of principles.
I want to know who runs Braun Capital. And by the way, we're almost out of time, but I want to know who runs Braun Capital. And what do they venture capital into? What companies have gotten the money? That's incredible. Yes. Yeah.
And like I said, look, they got 5.9. So taxpayer dollars were funneled to this Innovate board. The Innovate board decides, and their staff, because they have a pretty large staff, decides where that money goes, with the influence of those on the board, I'm sure. And then that money is then in turn either used for something like building a convenience store or building a new kitchen in the back of your Mexican restaurant, or it is then redistributed again in a third layer for something like this Bronze Valley Venture Capital. They're taking money off the top for to use for their actual business, but then they're also redistributing that for to promote diversity and inclusion.
I'll tell you what else, and I'm going to throw this out there, and I know you think it too, but I guarantee you there is somebody behind the scenes who's benefiting from some of the money coming through these organizations on the far end, and that really bothers me, and I hope there's an investigation on this. And I hate it, Stephanie, but I got to go. If folks want to see the report when it comes out tomorrow, where do they find it?
Yeah, so the Innovate data is on their website and then already on our website under research, alabamapolicy.org, and then our report on this is going out first thing in the morning, so it'll be out 6 a.m. to media and legislators and on our website.
Good work. Great job. Kudos to all your staff. Stephanie Smith, Alabama Policy Institute, thank you so much.
Thanks, Phil. I appreciate it.
See ya. Good Lord. I'm just sitting around thinking I don't need caffeine for the next 3 days. Phil Williams, Right Side Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. Right Side ruffians out there, you are listening to Right Side Radio, solid conservative, just plain right. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right. Just covering down on some major ground across the southeast U.S. of A. I'm talking about y'all. This show goes from Huntsville back over to Chattanooga, from Tuscaloosa back over to Gadsden, all the way down to that loveliest little village on the plains we call Auburn, straight across the border. It's that thing we now again call Fort Benning, and then big old patches of North Georgia and Mississippi thrown in just for good measure. What'd you think about that last conversation, dude? I watched your face a few times light up.
That's pretty nuts. But let me just say, though, like, it's gotten into such a twisted mess. I'm glad that, people like Stephanie Smith and API are going in and trying to untangle that mess because, and I know you've said it many times, you've been down in Montgomery, but there's a deep state in Alabama, too.
Oh, there is.
And, if it's gone unchecked for so long and the same old just keeps going on, it's going to be shocking when stuff like that comes to, the public's attention.
Yeah.
It's nuts. And people are, like I said earlier in the segment, people are so focused on what's going on at the federal level. And then I guess they almost don't want to realize or just unaware that it's just that bad in some areas and your local government as well.
Listen, there were times in Montgomery when I would think that I had seen stuff and then something would happen. And there were a couple of times when it really, was disheartening to hear of things that people knew. I would hear stories of, and this is the corruption side. So I don't want to imply that everybody's corrupt because I don't believe that. I don't believe everybody is corrupted. There's some great people in Montgomery.
Yeah.
And in fact, what I really miss more than anything in my time in the legislature is actually the relationships that I have with people there. But I also heard people say, yeah, I remember when. And I remember apparently one of the big tricks was the gambling interests. They would give you a special gambling chip so that when you quote unquote cashed out, if that chip was in your hand when you cashed out big. That's untraceable. Mm-hmm. And then one of the other things that I heard was things like you checked into your hotel, somebody else paid the bill. You went by the clothing store, or Joseph A. Bank, get a new suit, got fitted for the suit, never had to come back and pay for the suit because somebody else walked in behind you and paid for the suit.
Yeah.
I mean, just gross stuff. And then I would hear people talk about there would be, actual bribes take place. And not that I ever saw, I didn't know of anything that I could report. I'm just saying that people would say that in years past, they remembered this would happen. Mm-hmm. And that kind of stuff's disheartening. And that kind of stuff blows public trust right out the door. But then you hear about this. This is like legal, yet there's legal versus ethical. That's why we have an ethics board in Montgomery. They don't call it the legal review board. They call it the ethics board. And they want to know, do you have any interests? And here's one of the things that I'm chasing a rabbit, but I'm just mad right now because this is our friggin' tax money right here.
Yep.
And one of the things that used to you couldn't find it. I actually tried to find it. One of the things you used to hear about was stuff like, if you look around the state, ask yourself, why does the state of Alabama own liquor stores? It's a great question. Try to get rid of them. It's a hard thing to unravel.
Yep.
There was always this, you could never get enough votes to do away with the ABC board. Why is there an ABC store? The Alabama Beverage Control Board. Why do we have the public sector selling alcohol in competition with the private sector? Well, guess what? Every one of the employees who stocks the shelves and runs the cash register is a state employee, first of all. Secondly, every single one of those, if you go back and look at them, the state does not own the property they sit on. They lease the space for those stores. Long-term government leases. And the story that I heard in the background, but I could never find the details for, was that the leaseholds were owned by LLCs and the silent partners were sometimes state legislators who made sure the ABC board never went away.
Follow the money.
If you can.
Yeah.
I mean, there are ways for them to do things without it being seen, and that's maddening. And now we're looking at Innovate Alabama. Now I don't care. I'm not going to sit here and say somebody's on the take, man. I mean, I know there's people out there that will rush to that, but I'll say this: some of those things shouldn't have gotten money. There's no way in the world. Listen, Rightside Media is a private company. And we are doing all we can to grow. And we've had days where we had to look at whether we could keep the lights turned on. I mean, there were days when, I mean, there were whole months where Charlene and I didn't even take home a paycheck just trying to keep this company alive. And then I find out somebody's building a friggin' convenience store with taxpayer dollars in Bessemer.
$1 million worth.
$1 million worth.
But see, like, if
there's no justification for that.
No. And if
I'm mad.
Yeah, and rightfully so. I mean, if you have a surplus, though, like in the private sector, it's like you need to spend that money. But if you got $1 million left over of taxpayer money, that should go back to the taxpayer. Am I crazy in saying
no,
that?
You're not.
Like, I don't know. It's nuts.
You're not. You're not at all. By the way, if you like what she just had, well, not like. If you want to know more about what she just said, I really do encourage you. Anytime, if you want to do a deep dive on what's happening in the state or what to think about certain legislation or whether a conservative policy point should be talked about or how to talk about it, the Alabama Policy Institute really is good at what they do. I was on staff there for several years. When I left office, having been a legislator, I often used their research to help me in my debates or to understand where the bills were going. You know, if there's a gray area, and there's a lot of gray areas, if there's a gray area and I wasn't sure what it meant, API would do great research. You could even call them and ask for help sometimes. Well, they've really worked in the last few years, and that was part of the movement for me to. And by the way, this radio show birthed out of API, but that was part of my time at API, was bringing it to a place where it wasn't just speaking inside the bubble in politics; it was speaking outside the bubble to all of y'all. It's there for you. I would encourage you, check it out. AlabamaPolicy.org is their website, and they got all their stuff on there. By the way, the fact that she cooked up this Alabama DOGE thing, good on her. Just so you know, I've got a piece here from Newsweek. I got a piece here from Newsweek that has all the states that are setting up their own DOGE. This article came out in February. It says that Florida, Governor Ron DeSantis launched a DOGE task force. I won't go into all the details. Georgia State Senate passed a bill aimed at reducing costs and setting up their version of the spirit of DOGE, they called it. Iowa, Governor Kim Reynolds put together an official state DOGE task force during a congressional panel. She talked about it. Kansas, Missouri, who else here? Turn the page, Phil. New Hampshire, North Carolina, Oklahoma, South Carolina. Now, some of these are just like good Texas. Some of these Texas lawmakers actually established a 13-member DOGE office, so that's great. And then Wisconsin. So, yeah, there's stuff happening around, but you just heard Stephanie Smith talk about it. I mean, listen, we got a $12 billion education budget alone. Between the education, Alabama is one of the few states in the nation that has two budgets. And between the education budget and the general fund, which is everything but education, we're looking at almost $15 billion in spending this year. Maybe it is $15 billion. That's if they get their supplementals done. But that's a lot of money. And there's a lot of room in there for waste, fraud, and abuse. And it's not always fraud. Fraud has criminal intent. But waste and abuse is easy. Waste and abuse is negligence. Waste and abuse does not rise to criminal conduct, but waste and abuse, at the very least, is someone being either A, recklessly indifferent, or B, negligent in what they're doing, and thinking that let's be fine to let things rock on. All right. Wow. I mean, my God, that's, you know what? I'm gonna hope the press takes that story she just and runs with it. I hope somebody's out there is going to go, good Lord, we need to get API on the record right now and do some background investigation on this UABRN USA Inc. that has a convenience store that got $1 million from Innovate Alabama.
But this is stuff that has to come to the light, you know?
It does.
Like it's been in the shadows for too long.
And there is nothing about a convenience store that is innovative. It's a friggin' 7-Eleven. And some guy named, or girl, no, it's a guy, Ahmed Badizia, with an address in Hoover, Alabama. I mean, it even says on here, it's a corporation, and it says to own. It was a corporation whose nature is to own real property, land, and certain physical assets of commercial real estate business. and they got $1 million in DOGE money. Not DOGE money, but Innovate Alabama money.
Public money.
Public money.
Yep.
Thank you. I'm just about to the point of tongue-tied. I don't usually get this incensed, but I think I'm gonna need a break just so I can go take a time out. Let's do that right now. I'll tell you what, we're about a minute ahead of schedule, but I got so many text messages that I want to jump on them and have a full amount of time to do that. So we'll take a break right now. We'll come right back. In the meantime, I need to go drink some chamomile tea or something. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We will be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right. Making common sense like a superpower. Just bulletproof influence. That's what we're bringing to bear. By the way, I just texted Stephanie Smith a minute ago, JP, and told her I'd like to make that Alabama DOGE thing a regular segment. We need to have her on more often. It's been too long since she's been on. But I think we need constant updates on this.
The weekly AL DOGE findings.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And then we can hopefully galvanize some right side ruffians to call their legislators and senators and say, what in God's name?
Put some pressure on.
Yeah. Man, I'm still stirred up. I'm not kidding too.
I can tell.
I got the heebie-jeebies. I'm some mad.
Well, you're somebody who's been down in Montgomery, and obviously you put in hard work that this stuff, you're trying to be fiscally responsible with our taxpayer money. So I think seeing that people are not being responsible with it, and it should drive everyone up a wall. But
yeah.
I think the fact, it's genuinely making you angry just shows that, it can be done, that this can be done better. It's possible.
It absolutely can. I hope this Innovate Alabama is going to get called into a Senate hearing and have to give account. But you know what, though? Looking at it right now, half the board is made up of state senators. So, all right. Brian from Decatur checks in. He says, given a convenience store $1 million sounds like fraud to me. No one could tell me that's waste and negligence. Brian, I'm not arguing with you. I want to know more about it. Before I'll accuse somebody of crimes, though, I want to know more about it. But by God, it sounds awful. Chris from Priceville says, I've never called a legislator. How does that work? Do they take your message or they actually talk with someone? So, Chris, you're in Priceville. I'm not sure. Look up Priceville, see what county that is. I think I know where it is. Before I just quote it out right, tell me what county that is, and I'll tell you who I think your state senator is. But
Morgan
County. Okay, yeah. I think Priceville. I think you're gonna wind up having either State Senator Larry Stutz, who's a great guy, very conservative, or State Senator Arthur Orr, who's also really sharp. Both are top-notch guys. I think that's your state senators, and then I believe you've got one of the best members of the House, Representative Ernie Yarbrough. So you've got some good folks in your area. Here's the way it works, Chris. Classic way to confirm, first of all, is you can go to the Secretary of State's website, I believe, and you can type in your zip code. It'll tell you who your state legislators are. The other thing to do is most of them have either a local delegation office or they'll have an office in Montgomery, and you can leave a message. You can also look them up online, and you'll find their email address. And I will just be honest with you. I tried to answer emails all the time. I knew some guys who laughed and said they never did. It'll be a mixed bag. But here's the other thing. They live in your community. The legislators are all part-time. They do what they do in Montgomery, but they also have full-time jobs back home. Like Senator Garland Gudger, who's the pro tem of the Senate, he owns a store and it's a great, I bought things there. It's a cool place where they sell architectural salvage down in Coleman. State Senator Arthur Orr, he works as a executive at Cook's Pest Control headquarters in Decatur. And Larry Stutz, he's a doctor. So these folks all have gigs back home. You might see them in the restaurants. You might run into them at church. You might not even realize they live near you. And they are all, generally speaking, very accessible. And you can ask for an opportunity to meet with them or call them. I did it all the time. Look for an opportunity. Be respectful. Know why you're calling and have the facts straight. And then just let them know in an even-keeled manner what you're hoping for or need from them. And that always made the biggest impact on me, more than any lobbyist or anything else. Bob from Madison says, sounds like a bunch of folks in Alabama need to go to jail with these Alabama DOGE findings. Let's just hold that thought and see where you go. Jeremy from Madison says, thank you, Stephanie Smith. Thank you for helping expose the man behind the curtain. Mike from Coxie, Alabama says, wow, Colonel Phil, Alabama DOGE is stepping on some toes. I love it. I'd like that. Alabama DOGE stepping on some toes. Put that on a bumper sticker.
Doge.
Are you trying to make me laugh now and lighten up? Lighten up, Phil.
Yeah, I had to lighten the mood there, yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what then, what we really don't want to hear is any panicins. Butters checking in. Butters is texting the show. He says, Doge, Alabama, he said, I know you did good with your discretionary funds, but that whole thing sounds like more often than not giving my tax dollars to an elected official to use as a campaign slush fund. Just my opinion. Butters, I am not arguing with your opinion. David from Cortland, Alabama says, he sent you it's a personal text.
Talking about the Hoffman process.
Yeah,
Maybe you need to partake in the Hoffman process right now.
To get in touch with my inner self? I'm okay. My inner self is filled with Jesus. Louis from Arab, Alabama says, talking about Blue Origin, go back to the beginning of the show. Says, FYI, about Blue's leadership, approximately 2 months, hang on, my screen's moving. Approximately 2 months ago, they had a reduction in force layoff, approximately 1,400 nationwide, of which I was one. Man, Louis, I am sorry to hear that. Sorry, dude. Man, I hope you're bouncing back from it. Andrew from Tony, Alabama, talking about earlier in the show with my monologue, says Chicks in Space sounds like a straight-to-TV movie. What we used to call straight-to-VHS. Ken from Athens says, talking about the KC-135. Yeah, I know the vomit comment. I'm aware of it now. I just didn't realize it was called that to help simulate weightlessness. All right, listen, you guys are an amazing audience. We're going to come back from this. We're going to do some other stuff. Let's talk about, I tell you what, let's talk about some other stuff overall. How much time have I got, JP? Is there a caller on the line? I don't want him to hold for like 5 or 6 minutes.
You got about a minute.
Let me take a quick call. Ron from Athens. Ron, I got about 45 seconds for you, man. What you got?
Okay. You talking about that BC?
Yeah.
There's 6 members on that board.
Yeah.
We pay them over $700,000 a year. The chairman makes $185,000.
Are you talking about Innovate Alabama? Oh, ABC board.
In Alabama.
Oh, ABC board. Oh, yeah.
ABC board.
Yeah, that thing's a mess.
Then and the guys that go around and just check and make sure everything's legal, we're paying them over $60,000 a year.
Yeah, well, you'd also be amazed how many benefits and pay you get just for like stocking the shelves at the ABC stores. It's unreal.
Yeah. Then they get 20 years in, we give them
retirement.
Retirement.
That's right. In the meantime, the private sector guys that have liquor stores, not that it's my big thing here, but it's private sector is having to compete with the public sector. And good luck with that. Hey, Ron, got to go, man. Thanks so much for the call.
All right. Thanks, man.
Thank
Have
you.
a good one.
You too. All right, listen, we're going to come back from this break. We're going to jump into something else. I did not know the show was going to be consumed by DOGE, but that was something else. We're going to talk about Fool Around and Find Out, because by golly, it's time. Now that I've gotten mad, I'm going to go ahead and talk about how glad I am that some folks are getting their stuff just like cut. And you know what? There's a bunch of panicins out there. Panicins. Yeah, there are. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We will be right back.